Preston Singletary Achsayi, Tlingit, Ke'enach Kochain Duasak, Kagwantan Nachatsati, Seattle Kwanayachat. That's a brief introduction in the Tlingit language. He said, my name is Preston Singletary. I come from the Kagwantan clan, from the Tlingit tribe in Alaska, and my Tlingit name is Kochain, and I live in Seattle.
Preston, it's wonderful to be on stage with you, and thank you for the opportunity to have a conversation with you.
Thank you.
You have said that Native art has always been excluded from the fine art world. If you can talk a little bit about that, and how is your art and your approach to your craft perhaps changing that scenario?
Well, I always say that the Native art has been excluded from the fine art world and has been kept in this cultural corral, so to speak, and there are people that like to determine what is contemporary, what is traditional, and where it fits in. And so I feel like the work that I'm doing is changing that. You know, with growing up in Seattle among the glass tribe, I was raised here in Seattle and started working on glass blowing teams about 1982. And the first exploration that I found when I was trying to connect my glass art with the cultural art was this hat form, typically made out of spruce root or cedar bark. And when I sandblasted some of the Tlingit designs into the piece, I had a discovery that this shadow effect that came through the piece when I put it on a pedestal. And to me, it was like a spirit that was being revealed to me. And I like to think of it today as like kind of a bit of a kinetic sculpture that interacts with the light.
Well, two things come to mind. First of all, where is that hat now? And this experience that you had with it, it sounded like it was a Eureka moment. And I'm curious about how that manifested in you as an artist.
Well, the first pieces I produced they were in about 1989, and I sent them up to Alaska. The first piece sold to the Museum of History and Art in Anchorage, and the other one disappeared. I don't know what happened to it. It's out there somewhere in the world, but it never came back to me. So
someone's enjoying it right now.
Someone is. So I spent a lot of time looking at cultural objects. Now, this is a traditional bowl that was made. So I'm looking at these objects and then creating glass sculptures that reflect the older pieces. So a lot of these things were perhaps utilitarian or had a place within the culture, and almost everything was ornamented with design work. And so a lot of these things were used for stagecraft, for storytelling, reiterating the stories for the clans, and also some of them had maybe like a deeper spiritual connection for ceremony or a ritual, healing rituals by a shaman. And so those are the things that inspire me. The connection of animal spirits to humans and communicating elements of the natural world. So a lot of these things are explorations of different forms and techniques that I could employ, a lot of it using the sandblasting technique. But to jump forward just a little bit, what I'm doing now, I'm kind of trying to integrate more of a modernist sensibility. So the modernists were the ones that were reflecting on primitive cultures, so-called primitive cultures. And so these pieces, this little group of pieces, to me, reflect a bit of a modernist sensibility. So I'm trying to turn the tables on the modernists, so to speak.
And this is all glass that we're looking at, right?
Yeah, this is all mostly blown glass, blown and sculpted in different ways.
Your work with elders has been significant and so critical in the development of your art. Take us through that journey.
In the summer of 2000, I met a man named Joe David, who became one of my most important mentors. He was from the Nuu-chah-nulth tribe from the west coast of Vancouver Island, but he's a master carver and was largely responsible for the resurgence of Northwest Coast art and coming back into awareness and attention. And we were up at the Pilchuck school, and he wanted to create a ceremonial sweat lodge up on the hill and offer it to the all of us who were up there. And he explained that it was a suffering and sacrifice ceremony, and that he would show us this experience. And for me, I was really rather apprehensive because I didn't know, but I participated with the 4 sweats. And after that, he adopted me and he shared his name with me. He gave me his name, which was Kakawan Chief, which means transforming killer whale, which is really significant because on the Northwest Coast you could receive names throughout your lifetime, which would denote a change or a growth, or if you were to assume a new responsibility, such as being a house leader, then you might receive an ancestral name.
You referred to the Pilchuck Glass School, and the Pilchuck Totem Pole project was a defining project for you on many levels.
Yeah, one of the first teachers that I met was David Svensson here, who helps me with some carving projects. Since I don't carve wood, I work exclusively in glass. So he had the idea to bring this effort together. We would honor the founders of the Pilchuck Glass School, John Hauberg, Annie Hauberg, Dale Chihuly. So we took that collaborative spirit that we learned as glass blowers, and we brought in these Alaskan carvers from Haines, Alaska, and they carved this totem pole. And we created a class surrounding the finishing and the completion of the pole, and created these totemic elements that were fabricated in glass, and then they were inlaid into the pole. And so, John Hauberg was a passionate Northwest Coast native art collector. He had repatriated some materials to the tribes up in Alaska, and so he was adopted, given a Tlingit name. So we saw it very befitting to make this totem pole for him. We invited some of the elders from Alaska to come down and help us with the installation ceremony. And so here we have a little bit of an example of, we backlit those glass elements with neon tubes, and here you can see Dale Chihuly's face. So instead of the patch, we have this slash across the eye, which represents Dale's vision of glass, vision of the school, and he's holding the raven, which in the mythological stories is raven brings the light to the world. So it's like Dale Chihuly brought the idea of Pilchuck to the world.
You've spoken about the spiritual path you're on. Where are you on that journey?
Well, when I was up on the campus, when that project was really a rite of passage for me. It was something that while I was there, I had this flash of deja vu, which just really impacted me, made me feel as though I'd been there before. And for me, it was kind of like a genetic memory that I feel we all possess, and I feel like that's something that I think in terms of Tlingit culture, the ancestors that we pay honor to through the generations, through totem poles and what have you. So this is my great-grandmother here in the center, who she relocated from Alaska in the 20s to Seattle, and that's how we all ended up in the Seattle area. She lived to be over 100 years old, and so she was quite a figure in my family. And one of the last conversations I had with my own grandmother, her daughter, was that if anybody were to look at her life's work, then they'd have to look at her grandchildren. So today, I'm filled with a tremendous sense of purpose, in the work that I do.
A lot of your work lately has been monumental, literally and figuratively. Show us what that means to you and the impact of this monumental work.
The Northwest Coast cultures, with their sense of pageantry, and grand scale, and as I mentioned, like the reflection of the ancestors through a generational, process, and I feel like I'm a part of that lineage, matrilineal society. And this is one of the largest pieces I did a couple years ago. It's at the Seattle Art Museum. It's a killer whale screen, and that is. Anyway, that's my crest symbol that represents our family. These are some larger pieces that I did. These house posts that are about 500 pounds each, And this was, for the Museum of Glass, and a much larger screen that represents the eagle, which is the side of the tribe where my family comes from. And then, of course, getting into more of international collaboration, I started to work in the Czech Republic, where we were pioneering large-scale glass casting. So this is an example of a story of my great-grandmother here in this totem pole, that she had a pet grizzly bear as a child. So you can see the grizzly bear cub on the top. You can see my great-grandmother. And so that's what totem poles do, is they tell a story.
And speaking of stories, I'm fascinated by your story and something I learned about you. That is, when you were younger, you had dreams of being an artist. Of course, that's not surprising, but they were dreams of being a performing artist, dreams of being a professional musician. In fact, you would go on to create glass art to support what you were hoping was going to be your musical career.
Right, right. So I always say that I'm kind of a musician trapped in the body of a glass blower. And it's true, that when I started blowing glass in the beginning, I thought, well, now I can afford to, do my passion, which was music. And so I have this band. I spent a lot of time through the 90s playing music and not really getting anywhere with it. But more recently, I thought I would integrate my cultural connection with Native performers, and we have this group called Little Big Band. And it's a Native American funk band because there was never one before, so I figured that there needed to be one.
Why not?
And because for me, funk music really embodies the best of lots of genres, jazz, rock, soul, gospel, and rock. So we have a little snippet we were going to play, if we could.
Dang it.
So that was, I had the opportunity to work with a pretty famous musician named Bernie Worrell, who actually played with Parliament Funkadelic, if any of you all knew that one, from the 70s and 80s. And so, in any case, that was an example of using traditional Tlingit songs, music, and then creating these funk jazz improvisations around that.
Well, in the short time I've known you, which is 1 week, I know you have so much gratitude. You're grateful to your collaborators and your mentors and the people who believed in you, that have given you so much inspiration for the work you do.
Yeah, I spend a lot of time working with collaboratively with other artists, and so in my way, that's sort of giving back to the community and showing that glass actually has the ability to be utilized in different ways and bring a new dimension to indigenous art. So this is a variety of collaborations that I've done with different artists from around the country, from the Southwest, and also the Hawaiian and the Maori culture. So these are all glass-blown pieces that are reflective of other people's culture. This was the Maori version here. This was something that conjoining the jade, the traditional jade, and then also conjoining the stories. And I learn a lot through working with other indigenous artists and how they approach their culture. And so I always say that the materials that we use for indigenous art are becoming increasingly rare, such as the totem poles or the cedar logs for the totem poles and the dugout canoes. And so you'll start to see new materials being utilized by artists to keep the stories and the symbols alive. And so that's and then the fact that we're all connected in this continuum. There was a Maori proverb that I learned, and that is, my accomplishments are not mine alone, but those of many.
Preston, thank you for sharing with us your beautiful work and your wisdom.
Thank you.
Thank you.